All right, morning everyone. We will go ahead and get started for the morning. So, hello and good morning to everyone. I'm Lisin, Partner Marketing for Mitcom. In collaboration with Cisco, welcome to today's webinar where we will be talking about smart hybrid workspace collaboration. Our presenters for this morning would be Jason from Mitcom, who will be covering Safe Return to the Office, Sean, Chandra, Krishna, and Nicholas from Cisco, who will be covering the secure and compliant collaboration with automation plus demo. And we have our guest speaker, Sean, who is our Customer Experience Director from AppSpace. Throughout the session, we would be happy if everybody could turn on your camera so we could have better interactions. During the end of each presentation session, should you have any questions, you can unmute yourself. Do feel free to raise a gesture or an emoji to address questions. The interactive function for gesture showing is only available on Webex Meeting app and not via the web browser. And we will also have a short break at 11 a.m. where Q&A can also be addressed then as well. Towards the end of the session, don't forget to redeem the free polo tee. And there will be a short mini pop quiz after the end, whereby you will stand a chance to win 50 ringgit vouchers if you get all the answers right. This is only for the top 10 highest scoring point participants. So we will go ahead and get started with Jason from Mitcom to start. All right, Jason.
Yep. So let me open up my files. Okay, hi, good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for joining us today for this session. So a brief introduction of myself. So my name is Jason Y. So I am from the Mitcom's business development team, which will be handled on technical design as well as some sales matter. So hope everyone is staying safe and healthy in this new norm as our pandemic is still going on. So my topic today will be about safe return to workspace. So actually this event is supposed to be a hybrid event, but due to the increasing cases and cluster in Malaysia, so we are glad to have Cisco Webex, one of the tools in Cisco hybrid workspace portfolio. We are now able to do it fully online. So what is hybrid workspace? So hybrid workspace actually provide flexible and seamless collaboration from anywhere, anytime, with the tool to provide collaboration tools to message, meet, call, share content, and to collaborate from any spaces, anytime, anywhere. So how can businesses be prepared for any future crisis and pandemic? So, and in fact, our current crisis has not ended yet. So since the first MCO, companies has implemented work from home, and then we have experienced a few CMCO, RMCO, and some place even EMCO. On and off, we are able to return to the office with some strict government policies. So whereas today, there are still companies that implement work from home to save costs and reduce physical office spaces. So this is why companies need to well strategize and plan for their hybrid workspace. So one of the key areas away is that companies must enable flexibility without compromise any user experience and productivity. So as we move beyond the situation, we get into more of an opportunity to reimagine the business process. So, and then to retrieve and add on capabilities that required during our daily business operation. So there are a few common topics we would like to highlight when we talk about hybrid workspace. So first is secure remote works, where we typically involve how secure is the communication and the collaboration in terms of network, and secure remote access when you are connected from out of office, from your house, and how convenient can these devices and tools can be provisioned and support remotely by your IT admin. So secondly is return to the physical workspace, whether this location is safe and compliant with policy, and whether equipped with the best connectivity to do all this collaboration video call. So thirdly is about moving to multi-cloud environment as company consume multiple application and services from different cloud. So how well can this be monitored and managed to ensure visibility and quality assurance? So there are lists of consideration when we talk about remote work and return to workspace, like security, user experience, connectivity, hardware capability, whether a space is comply to government policies. So we actually summarize out three key consideration to drive this hybrid workspace. So user experience is always on the prominent list. So Cisco offer end-to-end solution for all sizes of meeting room with the same user-friendly interface, no matter for the room, for the harder space, whether for your mobile devices, for iOS, Android, laptop, Windows, and Mac. So productivity, collaboration drive productivity. So to ensure you have the same experience and capability as if you are physically present in the room. So whether you are in the office with a virtual meeting, whether it's a video-centric, active co-creation, meetings where ideas are shared and improved together using interactive devices, or as well as those that on the go using mobile. So security is always the concern for communication and collaboration, where remote workers connect from anywhere, from cafe, coffee shop, Starbucks, or at home. So whether these calls are being encrypted end-to-end at any time. So even though that the situation we are facing now will continue to evolve, there actually a research to show that what people want now and in the future. So they want technology to help them through their day. They want to connect to the office and to their office culture, whether they are physically present in the room or through virtually. So they want flexibility. So it is essential to reimagine and rethink how do we use office in this new norm to prepare for the new challenge and build a safe hybrid workspace that provide great user experience, productivity, and security. Okay, so that's all for my opening today. I will pass the floor to Cisco team to further discuss on the detail for Cisco hybrid workspace solution and their latest features to ensure a safer return to the office. So, Sean, I will pass the floor to you.
Okay, yeah, you can just move the slides across, no problem.
You want me to show here?
Yeah, go ahead, no worries. Yeah, everything will be seamless. So, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody is staying safe. So, my name is Sean. I take care of the collaboration business at Cisco, and we are, according to, as per what Alison mentioned earlier on, supported by a team of our subject matter experts today. So, I think for the purpose of this webinar or this meeting, if you will, since there are only about 20 of us total, I would definitely encourage you guys to have a bit more interaction. Let us know how we are doing. If you can find the reaction or the emoji icons in your Webex application on your desktop, then you will be able to give us the thumbs up, the thumbs down, show us some gestures, keep us honest, keep us alive. Okay, so we definitely encourage interaction, and part of what we speak about today on the platform is going to be about all these kind of things as well. You know, the change in the work style, the workflow, as well as the workspace, and all powered by the platform itself, right? You're going to hear a lot about Webex in the coming topics by the subject matter experts. And again, so if you are able to, share with us a little bit about what you're thinking, your feedback, any questions you guys want to raise, please raise it up in the Q&A, and play with the Webex app as much as possible. Okay, right. So let me quickly just go through some of the stage setting and some of the trends that's going on. I'll share with you a little bit about the future of work, how things have evolved and how things are changing as well. Next slide, please, Jason. Okay, so everybody knows the work is changing. All right, work style is changing. How we are executing our tasks is definitely moving along. Right, whether you are working from home, a desk worker, you're the telecommuter, right? Today, everybody is probably working in combination of the office as well as from home. What are the kind of work styles as well as the agility on tools that you need to get your work done? We are basically going to support all the various different workloads for your work styles. Be better engaged. Next. So, and what do you need when it comes to the workspace itself? You basically need all of the things you see above here. There will be a deep dive later on. But when it comes to managing the environment, your analytics, and the data coming from the efficient use, the optimization of your workspaces, it becomes very important. So all of the dashboards, the analytics, as well as the telemetry of your meeting spaces and your offices becomes very important. And I think later on there's going to be a short explanation on how we can basically incorporate things like navigation as well as wayfinding, right, as part of the whole platform itself to basically make everything intelligent and integrated in your work office, in your workspace. All right. So I don't want to go through each and every one of those things, but when it comes to the workflow, also just bear in mind that today, with the power of the platform, is basically what we use today as well on a day-to-day basis. You'll have all these integrations on your workloads, things that you basically interact with every day, right? From your socials to your CRM to your front-end client, anything to basically get your daily tasks done, all your meetings in one platform. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the trends which is driving the change in the workplace. Most of us have already experienced it. Okay, so COVID is not something that is new to us. We have been living in our makeshift caves, if you will, at home for a year. So what's happening with our workforce? Things are becoming more distributed. It's more dispersed, mobile and remote. Your flexible hybrid back-to-back office. Sometimes your office can be basically the coffee shop or anywhere you put up where you have a decent internet connection. Sometimes our work can't be avoided. So today, we just have received a call from one of our supposedly presenters, Pak Chandra from Indonesia. He was called up for a meeting and he basically had to go. Right, he had to go to attend to his client immediately. But then it doesn't matter because we are able to basically distribute ourselves resiliently and still deliver the event successfully. Okay, so online meetings, events, this all given. Now, what happens when there is poor engagement, right? Just now I talked a lot about interactivity, right? How we are basically changing the styles, right, in a meeting like this. Virtual meetings, everybody does it already, but what happens? How do we get it more engagement of the employees? Because poor engagement really hurts your bottom line, right? So when people attend meetings and they only listen in, most of the workforce over here, you see 67% of the global workforce, they might not be paying a lot of attention to you, unless of course there's a lot of fun stuff that's going on in the meeting. Now, 30%, less than 30% of millennials are engaged in a workplace. So today, by statistics, if you guys have a lot of young people working in the environment, in the organization, whether they're working at the office or they're working from home, we need a lot of motivation and inspiration for young people, right, to be engaged. And if we don't, then what happens is that 1/3 of the workers become disengaged, and then that might actually lead into more things like bonding and absenteeism. Okay, next. Now, the impact of it, what's the impact of ineffective meetings, right? Huge majority frequently experience issues with these kind of meetings. They experience fatigue. And even personally for myself, if I were to do back-to-back for one whole day, by the time it hits 4 or 5 p.m., sometimes you feel a little nauseous, right? You don't feel well. So it's just too much. So let's try to keep things, again, interactive. And how do we overcome this? Basically, we're going to talk about it in a while, right? So some of the stats they can share with you over here, just so as a conversational piece. Check out the last one. Almost 3/4 of people say meetings generally start late due to issues with joining, desktop sharing, and background noise. So the aim over here is basically to reduce the friction of your work styles in your workplace through the hybrid environment. Next. Now, many of you have already seen what the pandemic has done over the past year, right? These are some of the good as well as not so great trends that's taken place globally. E-commerce saw a huge growth, right, last year, especially March, April. Now, cloud services grew 30 to 50% during the pandemic months, right? We also saw an increase in the collaboration technology business. Video conferencing platforms saw a growth of up to 30 times. Now, in Malaysia, it's very funny because I don't know why Malaysians, even though we use all kinds of tools, we love to put our pictures on social media, on FB, on your Insta. But when it comes to video conferencing, usually people are very camera shy. Nobody switches on their video, right? So that's something that I believe as Malaysians, we will need to change our working styles as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, at any one point, please feel free to give us the thumbs up or thumbs down. Find the emoji icon. All right. Now, what about the bad stuff that's happening? Cybersecurity the top of mind, right? The spikes in cyber attacks grew by 600% with work from home. So your privacy becomes an issue. Next slide, please. So this is basically the mantra coming from our chairman and CEO, Chuck Robbins, right? We believe that privacy is a fundamental human right and we need security and transparency to protect it. Okay, so just to share with you that whatever that we speak of today and all in the portfolio, the platform, security is basically top of mind. It is basically something that is designed from the ground up. It's not an afterthought. Next slide, please. And talking about CEOs, what are they thinking about, right, post-pandemic? Now, I'll leave the statistics at the bottom over there for you guys to read. But generally speaking, the Fortune 500 CEOs in a survey, they know that capital spending will only increase this year. And because of transformation, your technology investment should be accelerated, because business travel may never return to the pre-pandemic levels. Even though today we have, yes, obviously we have a recovery plan. The government has a plan to distribute the vaccines, but when it comes to us Malaysians as a human nature, people, according to the stats given by the government, I know of the highest percentage of no-shows, even though people have actually registered to be vaccinated as well. So people are scared and not everybody will return or want to return to the workplace as usual. So this is also part of the trending on the birth of hybrid workspaces, right, which we need to cope with. Next slide, please. And what about when it comes to economics and money? So surprisingly, this survey was done on the chief financial officers were concerned about the work flexibility, resiliency, and investment. If you take a look at the last bar over there, when we ask all the CFOs about what are their thoughts, right, that will improve your company's long term. So they amazingly, the technology investment as well as financial impacts, right, was not top of their mind, even though they're CFOs, right? What they want out of the employees and the organization are things like work flexibility and better agility, right? So that's why you see a high number of votes, which is swung in favor of the flexibility as well as the agility to address the impact of a new wave of COVID-19 infections as well as economic downturn. So what it tells us is that the way that your workforce works also has to be tweaked a little bit, right? We probably need to get your employees to be better engaged, as per my first point over there, to increase the productivity so that your whole enterprise become resilient long term. Next, please. Now, I'd like to share with you a little bit on how Cisco has handled the pandemic over the past year, right? Quickly start off with ground zero, which is Wuhan City. When the pandemic actually started over there, Cisco responded immediately, and we basically sponsored, well, not sponsored, donated the city with our bunch of equipment, collaboration equipment, and all the networking and communication gear that was going to support the two hospitals in Wuhan. All right. Something closer to home, what you see on the left over there is basically some of the video solutions from Cisco mounted onto a robot. I believe this was from King Mongkut's University out of Thailand, where they have a very famous robotics lab. And the use case over here is for the physicians or the consultant to safely do his rounds to check on the critical patients of COVID while keeping safe, because at that particular point in time, they may not have enough PPE equipment. On the right-hand side, sorry, on the previous slide, yeah, correct. So on the right-hand side over there, that's a snapshot of Indonesia on how some of our all-in-one interactive video conferencing equipment is basically used by the front lines, right, to combat the pandemic at the hospitals. Next slide. So Indonesia, some of you may have already seen this already. The solutions are basically used across the governments, and one of the major events and meetings that was hosted was on the G20 summit last year for ASEAN. Next slide, please. And at home, we are also doing our part for the country. Started off last March. That was at the height of the pandemic. I know most of us in this room didn't get a lot of sleep then. But since then, we've been helping a lot of our clients locally in Malaysia, supporting the various ministries, agencies, education, very, very important, utilities, as well as the financial sector. One of the organizations which you don't have here, I didn't put here, is basically on our social security body, which is Percaso. So those guys are basically using Webex as well, and because a lot of people lost their jobs in the pandemic, one of the major use cases that Percaso is doing with Webex is that they are connecting potential employers with employees who have lost their jobs, and they basically run their I think 10 instances and put everybody in the breakout rooms on a very, very regular basis, so they can quickly recover people who have lost their jobs by linking them to the correct employees. Right. So those kind of news, they basically keep us going, and they motivate us to do better as well. So at the end of the day, the future is hybrid work, hybrid workforce, and the hybrid work style. Next slide, please. You're going to hear a little bit more about this, the single platform advantage. Don't think of Webex as just a meetings application. There's a lot more that's going on. And these are all extended through our calling, our meeting solutions, messaging, even contact center as well, right? I think if you read some of the news last week, even the contact center, the contact center on Webex, we basically had our first ever contact center deployment in Malaysia. It was through a tier 2 telco, came out in the Star last Friday, if I'm not mistaken, and it's something to be very proud of, all right? So that's where the agents as well as the workforce is moving to. I think later on you'll hear a little bit more about the control hub, where our solution architect, Nicholas, will drive you through some of the cool stuff on Webex, as well as some of what's happening at the background, right, for the administrators. Okay, next slide, please. And this is just my last slide, a teaser for all of you good ladies and gentlemen out there on what were the innovations from the Webex platform, okay, not just the application, but the platform over the past 5 months, okay? I will just give you a few seconds to pick out some of the experiences and the cool new features that we will go through in a while. And if you have any questions regarding themes, the themes along seamless collaboration, the smart hybrid workforce experiences, or even security, please let us know. These topics can be expanded, in a wider manner. So if you have any questions, please feel free. The panel of experts over here will be more than happy to answer your questions. Okay, so I hope I've given you a little snapshot about what we've been doing so far. If there are any questions, again, please feel free. If not, then I'll pass the mic over to Mr. Krishna Prasad. Okay, KP.
Hey, hi, thanks, Sean, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for making time. I'll just quickly share my content with you and then we'll just get started in a bit. I think someone took the presenter control. I'm just taking it back, guys. Okay, I hope you're seeing my content now. Sean, just give me a thumbs up if you do. All right, so my name's Krishna. Call me KP. I'm part of the collaboration team at Cisco. I'm based out of Singapore. And what I do is specifically help customers like yours with the collaboration transformation journey. And that's what I'm going to talk about here today. I think Sean set it off very nicely along with Jason as to what are the challenges that we're facing in the new norm. I'm going to expand that a little more to give you some feedback as to what we've seen and what our customers have been telling us after the experience that they've had the last 12 months, right? So I'll share a little bit about that. Talk to you also about some of the criteria that is driving innovation inside our portfolio and how that sort of is going to build itself out in terms of business benefits and outcomes for you. So without any further ado, let me just quickly take you back. So it's more of a sort of a journey going back into what we're seeing today in the market. So as we try to come back to becoming a more resilient organization, which sort of bounces back from all the curveballs that the pandemic has been throwing at us, I think it's also important, and this is one of the key asks from our customers, as to how inclusive can this become. And before I start explaining why I'm pivoting on inclusive so much, let's go back through some of the key learnings in the last 12 months, right? Of course, close to 100% of our workforce went remote. And there were some key learnings that came as a result, right? So what we learned was, one, remote work is possible, and it is also productive at the same time. We also learned that, and many times, the tools that you took back home with you were not necessarily ones that were built for such an extended work from home stint, right? Because in most cases, customers were just, or end users were just provided with a laptop. And then as organizations figured that this is going to be a little more long drawn, there was a quick scramble to try and find the right kind of tool sets. And in many cases, these tools or these applications that you settle for were done very quickly and keeping a short-term view in mind. It wasn't necessarily long-term. And I'll tell you why the long-term view is now beginning to make things complex, right? So in most cases, end users have been using a laptop for video meetings. More than 30% of your time when you've been working from home is on video meetings. Of course, you have the luxury right now to turn off your cameras, but typically when I get into meetings with my managers, they insist on us turning on video, and I'll tell you why. It's very difficult, in a one-off event like this. I can live with the fact that not everybody is turning on their cameras, right? Because there might be various reasons. But in an office setting where I'm having multiple meetings and I know I'm not going to be able to meet my team, I know I'm not going to be able to meet my new hire who has just joined the organization, I think video is the only way you can establish that connect. Video is the only way you can gauge if somebody is engaged enough, if somebody is really interested in what they're doing right now, right? And so turning on video has become critical, if not the norm, in most internal interactions at least. And in that context, what you find is most often people are hunching over their laptops, trying to get their best view of their camera. In some instances, they are trying so miserably to sort of hide their backgrounds or where they're working from, or avoid the distractions behind them, including noise. And all this adds to a lot more frustration and impacts the productivity of the remote participants. That's number one. The second issue we found is, in some cases, customers took a quick decision to go and buy, let's say, a meetings tool. But work is more than just meetings, right? I'm sure you admit it is a chain stream of activities that we do across the day. And when you start seeing that you have to connect with one of my remote employees or my remote team members outside of meetings, you start quickly looking at other tools, other applications, messaging applications, co-collaboration applications, and there are a whole bunch of them in the market. And that quickly makes the entire process very difficult to manage, because each one has their own set of applications that you bring. And before you know, there is a huge application sprawl that you have to deal with. Now, that was another big challenge that, of course, the pandemic has sort of brought to focus. And the third one, as I said, I think over a period of time, organizations have realized that as part of their business continuity and resiliency strategy, it would serve your remote workers well that if you have custom built devices to take care of things like video. Because right now I'm sitting in front of a device which is custom built for video conferencing. It's called the Webex Desk Pro. And as you can see, it completely takes the burden in terms of CPU and compute from my laptop and brings it onto itself, right? So easing up my capabilities to use my laptop for other things, what it's actually meant for. It also helps me bring in things like virtual background without affecting the performance of my laptop. It helps me cut down noise. I can have somebody using a hairdryer just next to me and you wouldn't even hear it. I'm sure we've got most of this organized for you to experience in a demo later today. So these are some of the challenges that we've been facing in the last 12 months trying to work from home. But does it stop there? No, I think there's more to come. Why? Because we are quickly pivoting to return to work. As soon as a viable vaccine is available and as people gain more confidence around these vaccines, there's definitely going to be people coming back to work. Now in Singapore, where I am, I think already most of the banks have started operating at about a 60-40 ratio, with 60% coming to the office, 40% working from home. But the fact here is that all these organizations have made flexible working something that is acceptable. So for instance, while the banks continue to enforce a 50-50 or 60-40 ratio, literally anybody is free to work from wherever they want. So there might be days that I choose to work from home and there might be days where I come to office. Now, because I think the whole notion that working from home is not productive has been broken. Everybody understands that they can still be productive. So what you're seeing is an increase in the number of flexible workers in an organization who can decide where they want to work. And at the same time, you're forced to deal with a return to office. And in this, there are multiple challenges, right? And I'll spell them out for you as we move along. Let's look at the flexible worker situation to start with. So, as I said, with 77% of employees embracing flexible working style, I think it's very important for organizations to figure, have we given the right set of tools? Do we have the right set of communication workloads that will allow these experiences to be as good as what they are in office? I think that's the first question. The second one is, as you can see, given the increase in flexible workers, 98% of the meetings that you conduct will at least have one remote worker joining those meetings, right? So you could all be in office, but there would still be at least one person who will log in from outside, just because flexible working is going to be so widely embraced. And organizations are encouraging that, right? But what you see is there are limited investments that we've made at home. I can't really guarantee the same kind of experience. So the biggest challenge for organization is, how do I sustain the same experience that I have in office when everybody meets in person, even if there is a remote participant joining? The second, and I think this is a bigger concern, is that everybody feels that a remote worker is never going to be as engaged as coming in person. And I think that technology is partially to blame, right? So the onus is on us as technology providers to ensure that we make your collaboration applications engaging enough so that even the remote workers feel that, hey, I feel connected, and there is enough opportunity for them to contribute in any communication. And we'll talk about that in just a bit. Now, coming back to the other side, because I spoke about the users, but let's also admit that from an IT perspective, the whole landscape for you to sort of manage is also become very difficult, right? It's not just those few offices and branches that you have to cater to. You now have to cater to each and every home workers' office as well. And very often when you start rolling out collaboration applications, the key challenge IT has is, how do I set this up? How do I manage and monitor these devices? How do I ensure it's secure? How do I ensure that when my colleague calls me and says something is not working, I get visibility right from a network level up till the media and the device that they're using, so that I can proactively go and fix these issues or troubleshoot these problems. I think that's a bigger challenge that IT is facing. How do we ensure that there is a consistent user experience for the end user, both in the office and in their new home office, right? And that's a responsibility, once again, that technology vendors are trying to solve, and I'll tell you how. So in a summary, what I would say is, where Cisco is focused on is that if for this new hybrid model to work, where you have people at home and people in office, I think inclusivity is going to be the key determinant, right? The more inclusive the experience the technology vendor can provide, the better would be the outcomes in terms of engagement. And this is, I'm sure everybody will associate with this. And especially even in this meeting, you all have your cameras turned off, and that could be various reasons. One could be background issues. Second, you probably feel that, okay, there's nothing much that I need to contribute to in this meeting anyway, so I'll just be a passive listener. And these are things that we would like to change, because let's accept the fact that, while the pandemic is far from over, hybrid work is going to stay, working from home is going to be here. And if you want your teams to engage, to get to know each other better, I think video is going to play a critical part. But along with it, we have to recognize the fact that, you don't want distractions, you don't want your background or your home to appear in your video for whatever reasons they may be. So you need to have a professional feel when you join these meetings. And what can technology do to help you with that? How can I make sure that though I'm a remote worker, I get the opportunity to express my opinion in most meetings? So these are some of our considerations, and I will talk about how Cisco is approaching all these different aspects. So in Cisco, I think I'll start off by saying that our experience on the new Webex experience that we want to deliver to all our customers is something that should be 10 times better than in-person interactions. While this may look very exaggerated, but that's exactly the mindset with which our engineers are attacking the problem. So if you notice, Sean mentioned 600 plus innovations in the last 6 to 8 months. And that's no mean task, right? It's taken a lot of effort, resource, money, time to deliver that kind of innovation. And all that we're trying to do is to make sure that though we continue to work remotely, we are still able to engage with each other very effectively, trying to address simple nuances. For instance, if I have my mic muted on my device and I start talking, my device intelligently alerts me that, hey, you got your mic muted, right? Very simple things. I may have turned off my video for all that you know. And automatically, a second into my session, it clearly alerts me, hey, you got your video turned off. Was that a conscious decision? So simple things like these that will go a long way in improving that flexible workers, experience. That's what we've been focusing on. Second, how can we make it inclusive? And inclusive is a very broad term, as you will see. When we say inclusive, we mean this across a whole bunch of dimensions, not just user experience. So to explain that, let me start off by showing you what I mean by this. We believe that collaboration has to be seamless with anyone, anywhere, working in sync with the applications that you use, because that's when you have context to whatever you're doing. We believe that this experience should be delivered regardless of where you are, in your home office, at the airport, or in your office itself. Everything underpinned with security, privacy, and valuable insights that your IT can use or your facilities team can use to improve that experience for the end user. So to start with, what we've done first is we've consolidated all the Cisco collaboration workloads that you've been consuming into one single app. It's just called the Webex app. So the Webex meetings app that you knew from the previous years is ceases to exist. In many ways, the new Webex app does everything. It does calling, it does meeting, it does messaging. By calling, I mean it is an extension of your PBX. It integrates into your PBX. And it gives you voice-based solutions, not only on-prem, but you can also consume this from our cloud-based infrastructure. Now, Sean did mention some time ago that, we had our first contact center win in Malaysia. I would like to just add a another word to it, we had our first contact center cloud win in Malaysia. We have a lot of wins in contact center in Malaysia, but this customer that Sean specifically spoke about is our first cloud contact center win. And as you can see, moving workloads to cloud is not an easy task, and moving the contact center workload in specific to the cloud is the most toughest of all. And Cisco has already done that. And so we now have a full-fledged contact center solution available in the cloud. So this is just an extension of that. Today we have a calling, meeting, messaging, all these workloads available in the cloud, but better still, everything can be consumed from the same app. So that's the first thing that we've done in terms of inclusion. Consolidate everything, consolidate all the workloads that your user needs so that your user does not have to worry about the friction involved in moving from one workload to the other. If you're using multiple apps to do these things, we stop that. Everybody uses one single app, use whichever workload you want that suits you the best. Second, we are also talking about inclusion from the point of view of whom you collaborate with. Now, there are multiple solutions that do calling, messaging, meetings, but one of the key unique value propositions that Cisco brings to the table is that Cisco's Webex app is built for not just your internal communication, it's also built for B2B communication. And what do I mean by that? If you want to, let's say, collaborate with a partner, I'm sure your IT team has concerns around security policies, the DLP, is there any sort of information loss? Whatever policies you set and whatever policies your partner sets on their Webex app will be adhered to in a communication. Very often we find that there are applications in the market today that gives you guest access, but the moment you join someone's guest tenancy, your IT and security policies are overridden, which means that poses a huge threat. And so one of the key things that Cisco did when we built our collaboration platform is to keep in mind that while everybody has the need to collaborate with some other business entity, we have a duty to ensure that each of these entities are able to enforce their own set of policies to govern the way their employees interact with each other. And that's something that Cisco has been able to pull off very, very, very clearly. So as Sean said, we can have separate deep dives arranged on the topic of security, and it can take almost an hour or two. So I'll just skip that part and proceed with my the third dimension of what I meant by inclusivity. So the third dimension of inclusivity is about allowing Webex not only to exist as a standalone application, but to tie some of your other workflow applications into Webex. So for instance, the messaging app allows you to bring in other applications into it so that your workers don't have to keep flipping between multiple applications, between their workflow and their communication tool. Everything can be blended together. And it is bi-directional in that you can even take elements of Webex and integrate that into your own applications. For instance, what you see in the center here is our integration with Salesforce.com. So you can start a Webex meeting from within Salesforce.com. You can start a Webex messaging session from inside Salesforce.com. And not just that, if you have your own portals, if you have your own mobile banking applications, you can take workloads that you think your customers might want to use and deliver them into your applications as well. So that's truly bringing inclusion to a different level altogether, wherein you're extending the benefit of your communication tool, not just for your internal stakeholders, but for your external stakeholders as well. And what gives us a huge benefit over competition here is that we are platform agnostic. Whether it's Windows, whether it's iOS, we work just the same. Whether it's Android, you still get the same experiences, and that's the biggest benefit. Now, that's from a point of view of integration with workflow. So that's inclusion of a different kind. So now I'm going to talk about specific integrations that are available that improve the inclusion experience from within the Cisco app itself. I'll start by showing you some of these features, and most of this is going to be covered in the demo today. So I'm just going to double click on one or two capabilities that I really enjoy the most. So of course, we are trying to make the remote workers experience a lot more engaging by bringing in a lot more customization in the layouts. You don't have to live with just the layout that the application provides out of box. You can mix and match layouts that best suit your needs so that you feel a lot more empowered in terms of how you're dealing with the application and the UI. Second, we are also bringing in capabilities like immersive collaboration, where you could bring your video on top of content, right? So you could still be there in front of your device or your laptop presenting, and you could have your content in the background. Then we also bringing in the better presence capabilities blended along with your status, so that employees really know what you're doing. Because especially in a flexible working setting with more people going remote, these small nuggets of information helps us collaborate better. Now, not to mention things like virtual background and noise suppression, all these good things are today available inside the Webex app. But I would like to specifically draw your attention to one key capability here, which is meeting templates. Now, what meeting templates does is gives you different types of meetings that you can schedule inside Webex. Now, what it does is, for instance, as I said, there might be a team meeting where typically the boss tends to talk, or maybe the folks who have got together in your office inside a meeting room tend to be a lot more engaged, and they're putting their points across. And most often the remote participants tend to get left out. So the roundtable template, for example, is a conscious decision from our side to ensure that we are promoting an equal share of voice for all participants who join a meeting. Now, left to your own, it's very difficult to change behavior, but when the application begins to enforce a certain kind of behavior, chances are that you would be able to give everybody an equal opportunity to voice their opinions. And that's one of the small things that we are adding, some certain small capabilities that we're adding into our meeting tools to ensure inclusion is taken care of. Not just that, you would also see that we have even announced the acquisition of a company called Slido. I'm sure everyone here understands or knows Kahoot. Kahoot is a great tool for you to conduct polls, ad hoc, to conduct feedback surveys. Now, we are acquiring Slido just to bring in these capabilities into the Webex app itself. So as a Webex consumer, you wouldn't have to pay again to buy another tool for polls and surveys. Part of your licensing will have these capabilities built in. So this is just an acquisition that we made. The product is going to make its way into the Webex user interface. And this will not be an application that's available only for meetings. Even on the messaging platform, you would be able to leverage the power of polls and surveys using Slido. So just a quick example of what we're doing when we're trying to integrate other applications that enhance productivity and brings in more inclusion into your Webex meeting app itself. So moving forward, it doesn't stop with just that. And as you can see here, we brought in language translation into the Webex portfolio. So today we support more than 100 languages that can translate English to that particular language. I think Bahasa Melayu is also included as part of it. Nicholas will be showing you this demonstration when we a little later in the day. But to put it in context, I think organizations spend roughly close to, I think the number was about $60 to $70 per user if they had to factor in how much they pay in terms of translation of content. Now that's a huge cost that we sort of help save by bringing in these capabilities into Webex itself. So we'll show you the demo, so stay tuned for that. We're also bringing in the ability to bring gesture recognition into Webex. So as you can see, very often we have Scrum meetings, and at the end of the Scrum meeting, whether it's a go or a no-go, is something that the team decides based on gestures. So we're making it a lot more easy for you. You simply don't have to select any buttons. As long as you make a gesture in front of the camera, it will automatically pop up on everyone's screen. As I said, again, roundtable templates, giving everybody a voice so that you feel inclusive. And more importantly, we brought in a new capability around personal insights. Now, what this means is, let me double click on this particular aspect here. What personal insights does is to take all this information about how your end user is interacting with the application, interacting with the devices, and making those connections to give the end user insightful information as to how they're collaborating with their teams. Now imagine another 6 months and I'm going to be working still from home, let's assume. And I have at least 4 or 5 people who joined in my team whom probably I've never even got an opportunity to meet. Now having these kind of insights, which tells me very clearly whether I'm abiding by, whether my behavioral traits when it comes to joining meetings is professional enough, helps me improve as a person. But it's not just about the person. It also gives you insights as to how you're spending or how you're interacting with your own colleagues. right? And that is good information, because this is information that the application is providing so that I can improve that and so that I can drive more inclusion within my team. It shouldn't be that Sean feels left out, that I don't message him at all. And that might not be a conscious sort of, behavior from my side. It's just that I wasn't aware. So bringing that kind of information to the end users, to the managers, and to the broader organization, at the same time respecting the privacy of each individual, I think that's exactly where we're going to start driving a more inclusive experience going forward. Now, we do this using Webex Graph, which is basically, it's a platform that helps us build insights by understanding the connections that you as an individual are making with the application, with the content you have, and with your broader organization. All right, so that brings me to the end of what I meant by how we are making things a lot more flexible and inclusive for our end customers. I'd just like to show you one more slide on one particular capability, because this was something that my customer asked me very recently. And this was a big bank. They said, hey, Krishna, we're sort of now focusing on the return to work. And one capability that we would like to see is, when people sit inside a meeting room, there are 6 of them. The view that you always present to the remote participants is of everybody sitting together. And the moment you bring in content, that becomes a much more smaller, that occupies a smaller part of real estate, and the folks in the meeting room are appearing in just one small bubble. Is this something you guys are working on? Fortunately for me, we were just launching this new feature where even if you have multiple people sitting in a meeting room, the moment you bring content in front of your video, it automatically splits all the participants in that meeting room into individual video feeds and brings that onto your screen, right? That way, even the remote participant still gets to see everybody and continue with the conversation. Just a small thing, but these are capabilities where we are bringing AI and additional intelligence to improve that overall user experience, okay? And of course, inclusion, not just from a point of view of, doing all these good things, but also looking at, differently abled people and their requirements as well. So there's a huge focus in even bringing in the inclusion factor across all these dimensions. So I'll stop with that in terms of the inclusion capability. So you've seen a whole bunch of things that we are capable of doing today. But I'll also like to summarize with just one last slide showing that all these activities, whether it be calling, be it meetings or messaging, can all be managed, monitored, troubleshoot. You can even troubleshoot and support from one single pane of glass, which we call the Webex Controller. I let Nicholas, I don't want to steal his thunder. I let him take you through this, but it's a very comprehensive dashboard for you to do everything possible, right from not just monitoring and managing your office assets, but also your remote workers' home office assets. Okay, so with that, let's move to the next topic, which is about return to work here. And as you can see, with vaccines underway, I think it's just a matter of time before people come to office, but it's going to look very different. There's going to be definitely a reduction in real estate, and I think very recently even DBS Bank announced that they were letting go of 2 of their floors in a building which they own, right? And that's basically because they don't see, with the increase in flexible workers, they don't see as many footfalls into the office as they used to. And now they're busy re-imaging the entire office, whatever is left, to clearly meet the requirements of the flexible worker, who's obviously going to be looking at hot desks, not dedicated cubicles. And also looking at 2 key aspects which are top of mind. One is the safe return to work, because I think as much as we have vaccines being available, to Sean's point, employees are still very, very concerned about coming back to office, right? Because they're worried about safety. And safety is not just a measure of protocols and policies that HR and facilities puts in place. There is a role that even technology can play in making that a possibility, right? And I'll talk about a little bit of that today. So enabling a safe return to office obviously means reducing the surface area in terms of touch, so that the lesser an employee has to touch things that are being used by others, chances are that your chances of having any infection being passed is also minimized. So Cisco has built all our devices keeping this one particular aspect in mind. And how we achieve touchless is by bringing in the capability of AIs. So we are using AI to deliver a virtual assistant. In this case, it's a Webex assistant. You can invoke the Webex assistant with just a simple voice command, and you could have any kind of instruction. For instance, sorry, can someone mute their line?
Hi, Krishna. Sorry.
Yeah.
We will go for a short break now because our break is from 11 to 11:15.
All right, sure.
We will continue with Krishna shortly after that.
Let's start the return to work after you guys return from your break.
Yes. Okay, so everybody, we'll have a short break now and we'll resume at 11:15. Small reminder that there will be a small pop-up quiz and a Photo Tea redemption towards the end of the webinar. So do stay tuned and we will see you then in another 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention for those who are still on the call, I had to mute our guest just now who accidentally had his mic on. Yeah, so that's one small little feature that the host is able to do.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. We shall resume the session. And if everyone is here, maybe you can just show me a reaction, like a thumbs up there. You can find the reactions emoji at the bottom right of your Cisco screen. Yeah. Thank you. Before we start, we shall show you a very short, interesting video to start off. Pass the presenter mode to Jason to share the screen.
Jason, we can't hear any audio from your video. Can you just ensure you're sharing the content right?
Blow their minds with Slido polls.
You'll have to restart again and optimize for video and audio.
Now you're catching on. Your word cloud will be killing it. Any questions? Slido Q&A. Your video calls won't be dead silent anymore. Make your meetings come alive with Slido.
Welcome back, everybody.
Try it with your next meeting at slido.com.
Jason, do you want to reshare the video and start from the beginning again? Or shall we just proceed with Krishna's continuation?
Yeah, you can proceed.
Okay. I've made you the presenter.
Yeah, thanks. Just a minute. All right, let me know once you see my slide deck. So, strange. Share my screen. Oops. Sorry, bear with me.
In between, should you have any questions after the end of Krishna's presentation, you can just raise a hand up or maybe give it a thumbs up and unmute yourself to ask questions if you do have. Or else you can just leave them in the Q&A box and we will get back to you as soon as possible throughout the session.
While KP is trying to bring up his slides, maybe if you can optimize for the voice and video, Jason, you want to entertain the audience first with the video clip?
Yep, this one.
All right, I think we are set. Maybe we just resume. Okay, so just give me a minute and I just scroll back to where we stopped last. All right, pardon me for the glitch. It's just that, there's something happening with my slideshow here, which was threw me off the. All right, so coming back to where we left last, right? So when we talk about return to work, as I said, one of the key considerations is looking at optimizing real estate, because not everybody needs to be present all the time in office. Flexible working is here to stay. But while you look at the benefits of optimizing real estate, I think it also gives an opportunity to also re-image the office, because the flexible worker is going to be looking for more of a hot desking arrangement inside office, not the traditional cubicle. And when organizations look at how their space is being is sort of purposed today, it definitely doesn't align with the aspirations of a flexible worker. That's number one. Number two, given that with more number of people working remotely, I think each and every meeting is going to be will have a virtual element in it, right? So you might have 90% of the staff still coming to office to attend, to join, have a meeting, and you might have that one guy who joins remotely for whom you need to have a virtual meeting platform. And when you look at that dynamic, one statistic that clearly stands out in most organizations is that 80% of the meeting spaces that you have are not possibly video enabled, right? It doesn't have a device that's purpose built for having remote meetings. So I think these are two key criteria from the point of view of devices and spaces that most organizations are now trying to come to terms with and to strategize around. In our opinion, I think there are 4 key steps that we need to do for you to be able to sort of cater to a hybrid workplace aspiration, and they are as follows, right? The first one is, of course, you have to look at updating your spaces so that you have the right tools in each of these spaces, video enabling them. And then Cisco has a broad portfolio of products that can help you video enable even the simplest room that has a normal display into having a much more immersive experience with an integrated video setup, right? And these spaces could be various ones. This for instance is a huddle space where quick catch-ups can happen between team members. You could also have your hot desks, which can be repurposed as video spaces with a simple device being added on top. In this case, what we call the Cisco Desk Cam. You can video enable any monitor that is there in a common space to becoming an effective meeting tool. And by the side, you can see that the phone is placed on a device. We call this the Webex Desk Hub. And this is a smart device for you to do space reservations. So anybody who walks into an office, looks for a place, they just have to place their phone on the Webex Desk Hub, what you see here down below, and automatically it knows who the person is, because the Webex app that you have on your phone starts communicating with this device. It allows you to import all your contacts that are available on the device. It allows you to import all your calendar meetings onto the device. And from that point on, it's a simple one button to touch to start your meetings. And before you know, the monitor that you have in front of you, along with the desk cam, offers you a 720p video experience. So we're looking at devices that cater to multiple budgets based on the type of space from where you want to use from, so that you can quickly video enable your organization without burning a hole in your pocket. I think that's the first part. Now, along with this, there are other use cases. I think one of my partners here is going to talk in greater detail about this topic, which is to also use these different devices that you have for digital signage, right? Because I think keeping employees safe and informed is important. But more than anything else, I think the other use case which another customer highlighted to us was to also have some form of social interactions where you're bringing in information to keep the employees engaged. So that's another use case. So I will leave it to my colleagues from my partners from AppSpace to talk a little more about it.
To interrupt, KP, I think you might want to swap his place into the slideshow.
Sure, I am on the slideshow, but then it's there's some challenge.
Okay, no worries.
You're just seeing the strip at the bottom, right? That's fine.
Yep. Okay.
Bear with me because I was trying to tinker with it and I lost time, so I thought let's just go ahead.
All right, carry on.
And the other key part is that you also have to make remote work sustainable, right? So that's where having that inclusive experience, bringing in custom-built form factors for the home office that takes the workload off from the laptops to deliver a much more richer, inclusive meeting experience for the remote worker. I think that's very important. You need not necessarily do it by investing a lot on devices. Devices or purpose-built devices could be invested for key management roles. But as you go down the chain, you could also look at other more cost-effective options that we have in our portfolio to help you achieve the same things. Now, if you look at the smart hybrid workplace experience, I think this is where the benefits of having both the hardware and the software being delivered from the same platform begin to make a difference. Because as you can see here, the kind of experiences that Cisco can deliver today when an employee, makes his or her way into the office is very unique. In that, I could start a meeting on my mobile phone, have a conversation with Sean simply on a basic call using the Webex app. I can quickly escalate that into a video meeting. And I think we are one of the first in the industry to be able to do a call to meeting escalation on the same app without any sort of disconnect. Now I escalate that into a meeting. And before I know, I've reached office and I quickly walk up to my office and I can move into any of the workspaces that is available in that room and magically move my meeting from my phone to a larger video endpoint. Or I simply place the phone on a desk that seems to be available and it automatically imports my meeting and keeps it ready for me to start my conversation or resume my conversation. And how we do this is simply because the hardware and the software are being controlled by the same platform in the cloud. And because of that, we're able to offer these frictionless experiences for the end user or for the flexible worker in this hybrid environment. Now, along with it, the platform is rich in terms of AI. So things like people count as to how many people are sitting in a room, throwing alerts so that there is safe distancing that is followed, even making things as very simple as, having name tags for every person that joins a meeting through facial recognition. These are some of the capabilities that we've consciously built into our devices. And these experiences follow when you join a meeting from your laptop or from your mobile. It's not specific to just that device alone. So we try to focus on bringing commonality and experience across all the devices so that your user has a consistent experience both at home and at the office. So needless to say, central to all these things is also ensuring that you have one single app. And I think Webex app is that one app that can do everything for you. It can do messaging, meetings, calling, and can also act as the device control application for all the video endpoints. Now, I think my colleague Nicholas is going to talk a little more about that in detail during the demos. Now, if you have to also look at what are the kind of form factors we have multiple devices that's available for transforming the remote worker's desk or a hot desk in office. And especially, I'd like to draw your attention to the Webex Desk Hub, which is our space reservation device. So even if you don't have certain wayfinding applications or the ability to sort of quickly block a space for an end user, the Webex Desk Hub does much more than that. Simply bring your phone, keep it on top of the device. It charges the phone at the same time, knows who you are, imports your identity, and ensures that facilities or anyone else who's looking for a hot desk knows that this is where you're sitting. Right? So there's a lot more that we can do with space intelligence with these devices. And I think Cisco is one of the first in the industry to bring these such devices to bear. And at the other end of the spectrum, which is meeting spaces, we have right from very simple, codecs that could be added to your existing screens to much more complex, immersive, integrated video units that's available. We also have whiteboarding. And I think whiteboarding is a topic in itself, because as much as users are embracing video-based meetings, I think one sore point that sticks out very clearly is the ability to have that collaborative sort of session, right? Brainstorming, ideation. And that's where having access to a whiteboard really makes a difference. Now, the beauty about the Webex app and the meeting experience is that our whiteboarding experience is available across form factors. You could use purpose-built devices like the Webex Board, or you could simply use your tablet or your desktop to engage with multiple participants on a whiteboarding experience, right? And there's a lot more to it. I think this is best experience than spoken about. So I will let you come in and take a look at, or probably use some of these devices at Mitcom or in Cisco whenever you have the time. Drop in. We're happy to host you and take you through these experiences. Well, and in summary, I think the most important point, all these devices, all the application experiences and the workloads, calling, messaging, meeting, everything can be monitored, managed, and you can support this from a single pane of glass, what we call the control hub. Huge advantage for IT, and it's a huge savings in terms of cost, in terms of being able to administer not just reactive support, but also proactive support. I'll let Nicholas talk a little more about it. But if I had to sort of quickly summarize what is the key distinction that Webex offers over others. One, seamless collaboration for both users inside and outside the organization. And I think you would probably relate to all the stuff that I spoke about under inclusion as part of that experience. The fact that the software and the hardware are integrated and connected to the same cloud platform helps us deliver much more superior experiences, and at the same time provide you with all the insights and analytics that IT needs across the spectrum. Third, there is enterprise calling that is built into it. If you're an existing Cisco calling customer, no worries. You can out of the box integrate the Webex app into your CUCM infrastructure, and you have calling. For those that don't have calling, we also have a cost-effective cloud option for you to get started on this journey. Cisco Webex platform is completely containerized, so you can take different experiences from the platform, deliver it into your own existing applications. And by the way, we do not charge anything for your guest users who access these applications, who access Webex through your application. All that is free. It's built, it's on the house. 5, we've centralized the entire management, making it very, very easy for IT. There's no other vendor that has complete control on the entire device plus software capabilities for collaboration. We're the only ones that's out there. I think that's a huge plus, especially in the face of remote working and hybrid work. Lastly, we also offer specialized customer experiences. I think Sean alluded to one of those, which was the contact center. It's built on top of the same platform, the same cloud, all the AI benefits, all the security advantages that we have in the portfolio also makes its way into these additional specialized experiences. For events, we have what is called the Webex Event Center. If you have specific training requirements, we have a specific line of business application that even caters to it. And plus, as I said, you can take all the elements of Webex and build your own app, right? You can build it into your own app, and that becomes a specialized experience in itself. So that's pretty much what we wanted to cover today. So I think we've gone through why return to work is inevitable. Once a vaccine is widely available, I think everyone comes back to work, but flexible working is here to stay. So catering to the aspirations of the remote worker and the office worker is very important. And I think looking at it from a long-term view of both these different scenarios will help you better zero down on the platform that can deliver all these outcomes. I think, and that's where Cisco really scores. And if I had to end, I would say we are on a journey to transform hybrid work, and we'd be happy to do that for you as well. And there isn't a better bridge than Cisco in terms of bringing both the remote work and return to office together. I think we've been building bridges for the longest time, and we continue to do so. Over to Sean. Thank you.
I think thanks a lot, KP. So I think what KP meant was that we have next up our key representative from AppSpace, Mr. Sean Wu. If you would like to take over the mantle and introduce yourself. You're on mute. Okay.
Hey, hi. Thanks, KP, for the introduction about the product portfolio from Cisco, as well as Sean Tay for the introduction. Well, for my session, basically, I'm actually going to introduce to you the collaboration between AppSpace and Cisco, particularly on the Cisco Webex devices. So my name is Sean, well, another Sean in the room. I'm actually from AppSpace, covering the sales for the ASEAN region. You may be wondering who is actually AppSpace in this particular event or webinar, as we say. Well, a little bit of introduction about AppSpace is that it's actually a workplace experience platform, collaborating very closely with Cisco, particularly on the Webex devices for the safe return to work, as well as the hybrid workplace environment. Right. So today, I'm glad to showcase to you an immersive demo demonstrating the AppSpace platform together with Webex devices in action on how it actually helps the organization to actually go for the embracing, into the smart hybrid workplace environment in this case, right? So let me just share my screen, just a moment. Anyone see my screen? Okay, good. I see a lot of thumbs up coming up. Thank you very much. So along the way, if there is any questions that you may have, please feel free to fill up the Q&A box, chat room, and we will be gladly, answer them. Yeah, because I do have about 30 minutes in this slot, so I will have to quickly run through the demo as much as I can. So basically, what I'm showing here is an immersive demo to showcase the going back to workplace environment, whereby a lot has been said by KP about the hybrid workplace environment. What are the challenges, and what basically AppSpace and Cisco can overcome those challenges in the new workplace environment. So this, in summary, I would quickly run through, whereby for an instance like you have employees that are going back into the office, as well as for visitors that may be coming to your office. For example, like contractors who may want to come, to repair something, or suppliers that may want to come, to pay a visit and things like that. So this will cover most of the use cases, whereby you have your office lobby area, your reception area, probably employees may walk through elevators areas. Then you come into scheduling. Scheduling is where you will have a meeting room where employees can actually book the meeting room for meeting purpose, ad hoc basis, or even plan meetings and things like that. And then you go into the meeting room experience, whereby you have the Cisco room kit minis that will automate the the people count, the people presence, leveraging on the AI to automate the meeting experience. And then you come into a workspace where you talk about the desk hoteling, where employees may not have a dedicated workstation anymore due to the pandemic, because the real estate size has been reduced. So therefore, employees may have to find a better tools for them to be able to reserve workplace or hot desk, in advance, so that when they are back into the office, they can then get to have a place to sit, for a duration of the time that they have booked for, right? And then it comes into a huddle room, which is a smaller room for 2 or 3 people to actually meet up, for discussions. And how would that help is to put up a device from Webex Board or something, for them to engage and collaborate. And lastly, we'll talk about the home office. All right. So now let me start off with the lobby area. So basically, lobby area is where you can see that in an organization, you may have like a video wall with multiple screens that join together, or probably there will be a big LED screens that actually put up at the lobby area to greet people, not just for employee, for also for people in general. You may then look at information like, for example, nowadays you may have to limit the number of people in the building. So probably 50% of employees are allowed to be in there. So you can then integrate this with, Cisco NDA tools that would then be able to track the number of people that are registered within the office environment. And from there, we can then pull out those statistics and put onto the TV screen so that people are aware of what is the current situation within the office, what's the condition like, so that people would then always be engaged and informed on what is ongoing within the office environment. You can also put out like the current weather condition, what's upcoming for the day and things like that. Now this is basically powered by a little white dongle over here, as you can see. So some of you may recognize that this is basically a Webex share device, right? So when it is not in primary use for sharing of your presentation wirelessly from your laptop, it can then be turned into a digital signage device, right? So therefore, once it's turned into a digital signage device, it actually has an AppSpace client onto it, and it will start to stream the content from the AppSpace portal. Okay, that's how it works, very simple. Then from the lobby area, we move into the reception area. So reception area here, the setup is pretty much simple. As you can see, there is a Cisco Webex Desk Pro, okay, and there is a wireless printer. So what's the purpose of this is that when you have a visitor that actually come into your organization and they want to do a registration through a kiosk, for example, in this, we use the Desk Pro as a kiosk, rather than they go into the reception area and pass in their identity card and do a manual registration. They can do a self-service check-in by going through this process. So how does it work is that you can actually do a check-in, okay? So then put in your details. So in this case, I would impersonate myself as say John Doe, put in my address, email address, all right, and then abc.com company, for example. Who am I going to visit in this case? So I will have a list of all the things that I can pull out from my AD, right? So since the list is too long, then I can then search, okay, I want to look for Sean Wu in this case. And what will be the purpose of the visit? So it could be meeting, it could be delivery, it could be others. This is something that you can actually configure. So in this case, I want to meet up with Sean Wu, for example, right? So then I will get ready to take a picture simply because the Desk Pro has a built-in camera over here, right? So I will get ready to take a picture of myself, actually my home now, take a picture. And what's next is there will be an NDA to be signed, right? So if I'm a visitor, I need to sign an NDA, so make sure that whatever that I see, whatever that I witness within the office, I could not actually disclose outside of the, the office. So I sign an NDA, then I will get a pass, that will be printed out from the printer together with a guest Wi-Fi username and password in case that I need to use. All right, so that's done. Very simple process of getting a guest being registered. Now, the next thing is that I will get a notification from my Webex team, right? Message and says that, okay, I have a visitor, right? And basically, John Doe is actually at the reception area. He has signed an NDA. Okay, so I get the notification on my Webex Teams as well as on my email inbox. So therefore, as a host, I would then be notified, and I know that John Doe is now currently waiting at the reception area. So if I can then also do a checkout after my meeting, which is very simple, just to do a checkout, get my batch number ID, and then I will be able to check out, through the kiosk. Okay. Subsequently, if myself, Sean Wu, as the host, has been busy doing something else and tend to forget about John Doe that is waiting at the reception area. So what John Doe could actually do is that with the same kiosk, right, he can then go and find Sean Wu in this case as to where he is located, as to what contact numbers that he can be contacted, right? So again, there's a list which is from the AD. So I can do a search. There's 2 Seans in this case in the organization. So Sean Wu is the one that I want to look for. I can see where he is located, right? I can actually zoom in, or I can then give him a call in this case, right? So I can do a direct call, hoping that he is actually at his desk, and he can then pick up the call and say that, hey, I'm actually here waiting for you, right? So then probably Sean may say that, oh, sorry, forgot that, could we wait? Could you come into a meeting room that we can meet, So he can then give him a name of the meeting room. And what you can do is that from here, I can then go and search for the room, right? The meeting room itself. Okay, so here I can then see the list of all the meeting rooms that is available within the building. So we can actually display out the floor plan, right? The map itself. I can have like ground floor all the way to the 5th floor. Okay, so if he says that, okay, let's wait at the blue couch, so this is the room name for blue couch. I can actually go to the room and wait for him for the meeting. Yeah. Okay. So that's the experience of using the technology that is available from both the collaborated experience from Cisco and AppSpace. Then from here we move on, and for example, the John Doe is actually moving on to go into the meeting room. So you may pass by areas like the elevators, right? So elevators here you can actually see the signage. So signage here, you can see like information about the environment within the organization. You can see temperature, the humidity, how many people are being detected, at this area itself. So then you are aware of the environment that you are following, the SOPs that are in place, right? Make sure that, these are the practices that are always being complied to, okay? And then you come into the area where you can see the meeting room display panel that is outside of the meeting room. Okay. So for example, like now, this is the meeting room name for auditorium. And it actually displays the information about the room, whereby it says that, okay, this room can only sit for how many people maximum, for example. Right. And it also has the list of all the playlists to make sure that people are always being engaged and informed about all the SOPs that needs to be followed within the organization itself. So for this case, what you can do is that you can actually walk into the room and wait for Sean Wu to come in and check into the room. So when Sean Wu comes in, comes into the room, he can actually do a scan to check in without having to interact with the surface of the tablet itself, right? So that is less interaction on the surface, right? Where some people may feel that that is more secure. So therefore, you can actually scan to actually check in. Okay? Otherwise, you can actually interact with the tablet to actually do a check-in process. Okay. So for example, now that the room has not been booked yet, so he can actually quickly do a room booking. So I'm going to check. I'm going to do like now it's already 11:50, and there are upcoming events like 2:30 onwards. So therefore I have all these available slots to book to use the room. Okay, so I may then use this for up to 12:30, for example. Then what I'm going to do is that right, meeting with John Doe. Okay, so I have quickly booked the room on the spot. Right, this room can actually integrate with your O365 calendar resource or your G Suite calendar resource, as well as if you are using Microsoft Exchange on-prem, that can also be integrated. So at the moment that I book from this panel, it is also updated to the backend, which is your those three mentioned platform, O365, Exchange, or G Suite. All right. So vice versa, it gets updated. And it tells me that it's going to end in 39 minutes. So my meeting is going to be ongoing in this case. Okay. I can even book in advance if I want. If there's somebody else that want to book the same room, then he sees that now it's being booked, he can actually book in advance for those available slots here. So if, for example, there's available at 3 o'clock, I can book this, and this could be like sales discussion, for example. So 3 o'clock to 3:30, there is a slot being booked over here, sales discussion. And this gets updated onto the backend as well. Okay. So from here, when I'm done with it, therefore the room is being booked, I can then go into the meeting. So this will be the meeting room experience. Okay. Over here, the setup is, again, you have like the Room Kit Plus. Okay, Room Kit Plus, and then there is the touch stand panel. Now over here, you can see that there is this screen here that is with signage being turned on. Okay, so when you know the primary function of the UC is not in use, normally the screens are being turned off, right? For green building, they will save energy, they will turn off the screens as much as possible. But with this, that you can actually, you know, add value into the UC devices by turning that into a signage mode. You can then start to look at the options or the advantage of displaying information that you can actually engage with your employees, right? For instance, like here, when someone walks into the room, you can then start to display information about the COVID, guidelines, right? And you can also start showing information about what are the room's capabilities. This room can actually sit for probably 4 persons the max, for example, right? And this room has been sanitized, for example. These are all the information that are relevant for the new norm in this case, okay? And of course, when people start to walk in, right, you can actually leverage the AI from the camera to detect the number of people in the room itself. Okay, say, for example, that I am the host and I forgot to actually check in from the panel outside of the meeting room, I can also do the check-in process within the room itself, which is available within the touch stand panel here. If I were to do a check-in, right, it says that now the room is being checked in. So therefore, I am secure to use the room that I booked for the duration of the time that I have specified. All right. So while the room is booked, if I am a newcomer into an organization, I may not be so familiar in using the UC. I can start to look at the user adoption video, which is a video clip, all right, a few minutes video clip to show me how to use and navigate around the UC.
You can use your touch panel to share content both locally in your meeting room.
All right, and as and when people or the attendees are walking into the room, right? Because this room is only capable of allowing up to 4 people the max, right? Or 2 people the max. When it gets detected by the AI and says that you have exceeded, 2 people or 4 people within the room, therefore what it does is that it can actually intelligently recognize that and recommend you to use another room which is bigger that can sit for more than 4 people that is being detected at the moment. right? So similarly for the air quality, right? So if the air quality is bad within the room, right, it can also detect that and recommend you to use another room. So these are all the AI leveraging that we actually built into the entire process. So to make the experience more seamless, right, more intelligent in the sense that they would then, proactively notify you of the environment that is suitable for the meeting. Okay. Then next thing is that, you can actually use this experience, that is integrated with F-Space to pull out, say, live news, for example. So in this case, live news here is...
Reality is that fundraising, when you aren't out of you're not straight out of central casting.
It's actually directly streamed from the Bloomberg live news, right? So basically, it's just a click of a button. You are linking to the Bloomberg live news, and you can actually watch the news in live, right? You can have more buttons that you can add on. For example, like you want to look at the corporate information, right? You want to look at anything about COVID-19 dashboard, for example, or even you want to, when you are finished, using the room, you may then send a report, to the cleaning department and say that, okay, it's time that this room needs to be cleaned before the next meeting starts, within the same room itself. So this room will be then, a block for probably about, 15 to 30 minutes for the cleaning process. And as and when if people wants to book, therefore they will see that this message that room is being blocked for cleaning services. Okay. Now, next, I'm going to move on to the workspace. Now, this is more of the workspace environment, right? As you can see, the setup is very much about devices that are relating to Test Pro on the workstation. And you can see there's a big board there. This is basically a Webex board, right? So you can see information that you publish, signage that you publish that everyone will be able to see. For example, like, when the devices are not in use, it goes into the screensaver mode. So when it's in screensaver mode, rather than to show nothing or show something else that is being personalized, you can actually take advantage of that by showing your corporate signage messaging, right? So that everyone will get the same messaging all the time. So therefore, how it works is that all these devices would then be registered with AppSpace, and the moment that is being detected that go into the idle mode, it will then automatically turn on the signage and display the signage content, right? Similarly, you can use this to also use for, say, for example, if you have a town hall session, right? So with the town hall session, not everybody can actually now group into an auditorium, right? So people are being scattered around. People can actually look at the town hall session live, within the auditorium with limited number of people, and the rest of the people can actually watch live from their own workstation or from, another common areas with a bigger screen. So in this case, how does it work is that if you were to use AppSpace, you can then start streaming those live events like the town hall sessions, and every screens will then start to display the town hall session. So for example, now that I'm doing a simulation whereby it's actually streaming my live content, that whatever that I am doing now is actually all streamed onto the devices, right? So it's very similar to a live town hall session. Okay. Next thing, and I want to show is the huddle space. Now, huddle space here is very much about a smaller room where you have 2 or 3 people that get together for a quick meeting. Now, how does it help is that you have like a, the Webex board that is within the meeting room. So when it's not in primary use, again, it can be turned into a digital signage mode, not just to display the passive content, but also you can actually interact with it, right? For example, like now you are talking about an event that you want to do, say a marketing event that is upcoming in the next 2 weeks, right? So there are certain things that you may want to get information from the marketing director, because these are the things that you need to confirm to make sure that your work can then proceed, without much of an interruption. So what you can do is that rather than to give him a call, you can actually use this interactive board to find the marketing director. Okay, so if I would know that his name is Darren, for example, right? So I can then click on that, and same experience where a visitor can actually find someone. This is the same experience where you can actually find someone internally and give him a call. Hopefully that he is actually at his workstation, then he can actually pick up the call and answer to the question. And straight away you get the answers, and you can proceed with your work with less interruptions, with much of no delay in this case. Okay. So these are all the experience that you can use by leveraging onto the board and the information that is available. You can also look at the other information, like for example, you want to find a room. Say your meeting has got extended, but the meeting room itself you need to vacate the room because another team will have to use this room. So what you can do is that you can then look at what are the other available rooms that you can actually book, right, that is nearby. Okay, so it's actually going to load up the meeting room list. Okay, while it's loading, then I'm going to show you some other things else, like for example, like you have the weather, you have the video, you can even have the town hall sessions, those that are recorded town hall.
Hey everybody, this is Lance here on my free account with my university email, and I thought I'd just make a quick.
Right, so those town hall sessions that you have recorded, you can also put it here as the video on demand, and you can actually play back as and when you like. Okay, these are all the experiences that you can do. And the last but not least is about the home experience, working from home. Now, working from home, the setup again is a desk pro that some of the executive level, they may be given a home a desk pro to work at home, right? Because they need to be always engaged and meeting with the staff. So same experience, when the primary function is not in use, it can be a signage mode, and information that is being published there, it can be personalized. You may be looking at your own personal channel that has your photos. You may be looking at dashboard reporting about, say, sales on a daily basis, that you can monitor the sales performance and things like that. So for example, like a personal channel, you can have like photos, and things. So these are the things that you can do because, if there is a differentiation that you distinguish between a laptop and a desk pro, simply because when you're doing the UC, right, when you have video conferencing, like what KP mentioned earlier, you may have other distraction like the noise, in the background, that you need to be canceled. So by using laptop, you can't do so, but if you're using the desk pro, you can do so, as well as the performance of the desk pro will be much better, that is being dedicated for all the UC experience, rather than to multi-purposely use onto a laptop itself, where it will strain the processing power and you get some lagging experience as well. So these are the experiences that we have. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And that's about all that I have for today's presentation. So I'll pass the ball back to Shante.
So I'll take over.
Okay. Right, Nicholas, take over. Thank you.
So I think we've now come to the section where you've been awaiting the most, which is all about the demos. We did all the talking, so bear with me for that. Now we'll hand it over to Nicholas to take you through the last leg, wherein he'll showcase all the demos of the capabilities that we spoke about. Over to you, Nicholas.
Yeah, sure. Just before I start my demo, in fact, I have some quick slides to run through, right? As you can see, the screen now, I think probably if I'm sharing it in a call, I'm going to share it now. Is it coming up?
Not yet.
No, I think I need to reshare it. Just reconnect my HDMI.
Yeah, bear with Nicholas because he's juggling with multiple connections to try and simulate a live demo that we usually do with so many endpoints. So it's been a bit of a task.
Seems like I can't share. Let me do this.
Are you seeing a slide, Nicholas?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm using the HDMI. So if you can see my screen now, all good? Yeah. So before I go into the actual demo, right? So just want to run through a little bit on the security, privacy, and management, as well as the insight. So what KP, Sean, or even Jason and Sean Wu that share with you, those are the fancy stuff on what Webex as a whole, from the user experience perspective. You can see from the devices when you come back to office, how can you experience all those experiences where you can actually use the devices and stuff. But from the IT perspective, how are you going to actually ensuring all these devices or all these users connecting from anywhere are secure, right? So the platform itself, when we talk about it, as what Sean has mentioned earlier, it is a platform, right? If you look at today, what we have covered in the first half of it, it's basically at the bottom where the data is, right? The devices where you can see this is the Test Pro over here. The one in front of me is actually a dual screen Webex Room 70. And then we talk about a lot of the app itself, Webex Meeting, and the messaging piece, as well as calling, right? Calling is not something new. It's been around for like 20 years for IP telephony. So we actually move all this thing into one consolidated apps, right? And moving up, you would see that there's a Webex Cloud that is we actually introduced, right? Webex Cloud will actually branch out to two different things. The one thing is the Control Hub that has been around for when we have the Webex. So Control Hub is the single point of control, or you can call it single pane of glass, where you can actually manage all your users, devices, as well as all your meetings, and be a platform that you can actually use it for troubleshooting, right? And the one thing that we introduced during last November is the People Insight, where you can actually look at your personal kind of insight, right? And if you look at this, the Webex Cloud Power, I will just quickly move to this. Personal insight for individual. So this is something that you will, someone raise hand. So maybe.
Just ignore.
Okay, so personal insights for individual, right? This is kind of like similar if you have an iPhone or Android. If you look at your maybe weekly screen time, right? You actually send you reports in a weekly basis. How much time you spend in a Facebook app or WhatsApp or any other apps that you're using, right? So this is giving you an insight where within your personal meetings, right? Whether you are actually practicing kind of work-life balance, right? Because nowadays during pandemic, we work almost around the clock, I would say, right? Sometimes it's at night, you probably have a call because you're at home, where somebody can just reach you anywhere. So this personal insight will give you more information. How can you practice that, right? Because this is very important, right? And because of all this working from home and stress and stuff, it's actually affecting your life, right? And HR is actively looking into all this information, right? And this information is actually right for you to look into that, right? And personal insight here, it is not something that giving your bosses to track you how effectively you are working in the office or at home, right? That's not something that we are doing. It's more like giving you a personal insight which you have the view of yourself and how you want to actually improve your work-life balance, right? And then secondly is the team insight. Yes, could be probably your superior, right? Your superior can actually have a overview of your team insight, right? Not like micromanaging, but I would say that it is a glance of a view of your team members, how they actually collaborate, and which are the team's members that they're collaborating with, right? This insight, in fact, give more actionable item for your bosses, right? In fact, they can probably react based on this analytic information, whether they want to talk to you, you're spending too much time, right, in a weekly basis, maybe you need to slow down a little bit. All those information are very useful, and we are giving this in the Webex platform itself, right? And then the next one is the, which I mentioned, the bottom of the, let me see, where is it? Yeah, the bottom of the page that I shared just now, the Webex graph, the data, the bottom is the API, and we have an API that is open, and you can see that there are a lot of apps that will be actually get added into the Webex. So in meeting experience, you can actually natively integrate with all these apps, Miro, Workspace, Box, ServiceNow, you name it, right? It's all listed down there. So if you are using any of this, you can actually integrate with that, right? And you can see that from there. I know that Miro is one of the famous app for whiteboarding or for brainstorming within the team. These are the good things that you can actually integrate coming up in our Webex. And then I'll just straight jump into the Control Hub demo, right? Let me end this show. So in the Control Hub, which I mentioned is a single pane of glass, when you log into your Control Hub, where you will get into the page where everything you can see from here, right? If you have services subscribed with Cisco or via Mitcom, like on Webex for meeting, you can see that the service availability, which is actually telling you that the health of the services that is running on the cloud. If you have a Webex calling, for instance, the IP telephony stuff, right, that is with Cisco, you can also see that all this information will give you some insight on the health of the services that we are actually rendering on this. So apart from that, of course, from the user's perspective, you can actually integrate that with your single sign-on, right? If you have an Active Directory, whether it's on the cloud or whether it's on-prem, you can have all these users synchronized with your directory, right? So that it can actually authenticate securely to your organization credential, right? And Workspaces is where, before I touch on Workspaces, the devices that I've been talking a lot earlier, this is basically a single page where you can add new devices into all the meetings room, or at home if you want to provision a device, right? I just provisioned this device over here just now. I just reset and re-provision it, and you can see there's ongoing meetings going on because it's actually ties to my profile. And from all these things, you can see that the status of the device, you can even make some changes over these devices. If you want to go into here, right, you can reboot the device remotely. So for instance, if you are actually managing your devices or meetings room at home, right, and you do not know whether that meetings room is the device is actually on, right, or you can actually do a reboot remotely, right? So all these things you can control from here. And of course, you can also change all the parameters if you want to change certain things. What Xiaomu has shared about the digital signage and stuff is all devices over here you can enable remotely, right, rather than going down connecting to the LAN and stuff, because in this Control Hub, basically you have the access to all these devices, right? And then the next I will touch on is that if you have the, let me go back to here, it's kind of slow. So let me search one of the device over here in Singapore, right? I just take, for instance, the RoomKit Mini here. So this RoomKit Mini has the information of the workspaces. You look at this, right? This RoomKit Mini today, 12:15 p.m. right now, you can look at the real-time utilization metrics for that device itself. Of course, there's no people in that room, because when there's people in that room, you will see that the occupant is actually 1 or 2, right? So it detects present in those rooms. And of course, if you want to know more details, I can actually zoom into here. So the utilization metrics is very useful for some of the real estate or maybe your facility teams that are managing your meetings room devices. You can look at the past, maybe last 30 hours, what's the occupancy metrics for that meeting room. If you see that there's a lot of people actually utilizing that devices every day, maybe you might think of adding more devices within that area itself. So this will give you some insight, right? If it's some of the device may be underutilized, you can see that this device for the past maybe Wednesday until today, 24 hours, is no usage, right? So this is in the EBC location, so probably there's nobody actually using it, right? And from there, you can also look at the average occupancy, maximum occupancy, and the capacity, right? And apart from that, of course, the environmental metrics that you can also look at inside of that room itself. You will look at the sound metric, whether the environment of the room, the sound is good, is set up proper for people that's going in for the next meeting. The temperature, like sometimes you do not know that probably the centralized aircon has some issue, or there's no aircon at all in that room. So you wouldn't want to book that room, right? Or if your executive wanted to book a room, right, you do not want to suggest this room for them because the temperature inside that room is not optimum, right? In this case, you have the statistics of the room temperature average for the past how many days you can actually set over here, right? So this is for last 24 hours, right? And then humidity and all those air quality, you can also monitor from there. How can we actually know all these things, right? Because with our Webex devices such as the Dash Pro and our Navigator, right? I think just now we shared a little bit on the Navigator itself. We have all these built-in IoT sensors, right? This IoT sensor will act and respond back to the dashboard where you can monitor all these things remotely, right? So this is very good information for your facility team, for your IT that's managing the room, for whoever that actually looking at all the meeting rooms usage in the specific meeting room dedicated floors. So yeah, and let me just go to another one, right? So over here, enough on the control hub side, right? Let me go straight to the troubleshooting. Yeah, can't find my pointer. So beside the devices over here, you have the analytics of the meeting, right? So if I click on the analytics, you will see the analytics of all the meetings that is conducted for the past 30 days, right? For your organization. Of course, you can also change it to 90 days, 365 days to look at the meetings information over here, right? And down here, you can see that who's the top meeting participant, who are the top 10 meetings, and all this insight will give you how's the usage adoption in your organization. And you can see that how many people actually turning on video or sharing the presentation or use the recording functionality. So we give all this analytic and insight, right, so that the admin or the adoption team can drive more usage in that platform itself, right? So you can see at the
just a point, because especially in the hot desking kind of world, having that engagement information is very critical because you will know whether you're giving the right kind of devices to the right group of people. Because you might have engineers sitting in a specific part of the building and they might be requiring whiteboarding and you don't have any whiteboards there. So if you find that a Webex board is not being used, based on who is using whiteboarding in the app, you can quickly decide which are the areas in the office where these assets can give you better returns. So I think that's where for facilities and IT, this is a huge plus, this kind of data. Yeah, over to you, Nick.
Yeah, maybe we share it. I'm not sure whether it's...
You've gone out of screen share.
Yeah, no problem. Just reconnect it. It's coming up?
Yes, it's coming up.
So thanks, KP. But beside the shared devices, the hot desking that KP has mentioned, you can also look at the total meetings, how they can actually join, how they use the whether they're using the apps to join, whether they're using the devices to join. All this information inside is give you whether if you invest devices like this for your organization, you want to drive adoption, right? Definitely you want to know that are they actually using the device, right? If you give your headsets to your users, are they actually using their headsets when they join any meetings, or are they actually just using the built-in microphone and stuff, right? So all this information will help you, right, to to your budget or your OPEX spending, right, in the future as well, right? And of course, if you look at quality will give you an insight whether your network health or your Webex meeting health, whether it's optimum, right? If you look at all this thing where it's green, means it's good, right? If it's poor, then there's some connectivity which is having problem. So you know that your users, when they joining meeting, they feel it's not great because there's some issue with the VoIP, for instance. Maybe you need to find out what are the things that need to be fixed. So if you have users as complaining, you actually list down here, right, the top 300 participants with poor URP quality. I noticed that especially last year in the pandemic, there are a lot of complaint about when joining a virtual meeting, regardless whether a Webex or any other form of meeting, you probably join Zoom or Microsoft Teams meeting, right? So they complain a lot of all these poor qualities, right? And how can you find out as an administrator or as an IT? You wouldn't be able to know unless you go in to do, IT likes to do a Wireshark and all those stuff, but you don't need to, right? Right now, with this dashboard, you can actually look at who are actually these people that actually affected with the poor VoIP quality. And then from there, if you want to actually look into the troubleshooting, you can do either a live troubleshooting, whether there's a live meeting troubleshooting, or you can actually search back on all this meeting, right? Maybe, let me see whether I have this. Yeah, I need to find a user. So there are a lot of your users over here. Then you can actually find that user and look at the troubleshooting of the metrics, right? So see whether, yeah, I don't think I have this in place. Let me check. So if you look at this, another control hub, I'm not sure whether this has any information. So if I look at the troubleshooting, you will look at the live meeting as well as the past meeting, and you can zoom in to troubleshoot on the issue itself, right? So I need to find the login for the control hub. Let me do this, a very quick one. Maybe KP, you want to?
Yeah. So while Nicholas is trying to do that, let me give him some cushion. The best part about this is it's not just the larger integrated video endpoints that you can get to control using the control hub, right? You can also, even the smallest denominator that we have, which is our desk cam, which is nothing but like a much more sort of sophisticated webcam, to even the wireless headsets that Cisco supplies. All these assets can be managed using your control hub, including the patch updates that need to happen, because I think that's one of the biggest challenges IT has in terms of managing these smaller devices, headsets and webcams especially. Even those can be managed, monitored in terms of utilization from using your control hub itself. So in many ways, that's the biggest power and advantage that the control hub brings to you, because now IT can not only just manage all the users in Office, but can also manage the assets and the user experience for all your remote workers as well. And I think that's going to be a huge plus for you, because anyone who calls you reporting an issue with your meeting or with a call, you can easily now go there and quite quickly triage to see where exactly the problem is. Yeah, back to Nicholas. So he's going to show you how he does that now.
So if you look at the troubleshooting, when you want to actually do a live troubleshooting with your users, right? And you can see that from here, when you drop down the live meeting, you have one live meeting that is in progress. When I click on it, you will roughly know that, oh, this meeting is actually going on, and there are a few users that actually joined for this meeting. Right over here, when you click on from this side, you can look at the meeting details, right? Where are the meeting ID, how many participants actually connected to this, or the host name, the emails and stuff, whether they're connected using VoIP. And overall, they'll give you the chat legend, right? It's green, it's good. If you notice that there's a fair or poor quality, you can actually zoom in to look into that issue, right? For instance, for this one, the audio quality, the video quality is good, right? You can see that this person, right, is DJ Home Office is joining from Dash Pro, and is connected to Wi-Fi. And where is it connected through? Because it's cloud, you can see that this is connected to a Sydney, Australia media node. And you roughly know that what network they are coming from, right? All this information will give you some insight to troubleshoot whether it's related to network or to Wi-Fi, or even if it's related to Webex as a platform, right? And most often when I receive all these complaints, I notice that some of the corporate network, they actually block UDP, right? So UDP is one of the requirement for a smooth video and audio conversation. So if you notice that your user is complaining very bad audio or very bad video, maybe the first thing you want to look at the audio transport and video transport, whether they are actually uses UDP or TCP. So what happened is that most of the firewall doesn't allow UDP ports to communicate outside their organization, right? But in most of the meetings today, either for Webex, for Zoom, or even for Microsoft, we use UDP because UDP is connectionless, right? But you need to have connectionless traffic for video and audio to transport. So this is the first thing I will look at. If it's something that is showing TCP, maybe you need to look into your network how to allow this traffic to go through. And then, of course, not just the UDP. Of course, you can look at the share quality, whether the content sharing is good. Because of this person is actually using a Dash Pro, you may not be able to look at the details of the PC. Let me choose one participant that is actually using a PC. So let me see this users. So it uses a Teen client, right? Webex Teen client running on Chrome. So if I look at Teen client, you don't have the information as well. So the Teen client will probably give you lesser information, but for a Windows PC or Mac PC, you will actually be able to zoom down to the CPU utilization of the PC, the memory utilization of PC as well, right? All this insight, you can do it right from your home, right? You don't need to be in the office and do a packet capturing or Wireshark and such, right? Let me try to search one.
Even other simple things, right? For instance, I've had instances where customer call says, my voice is not heard. And IT quickly went and looks at controller and we find that the person has muted his audio. They don't realize it. But the analytics will capture who's on mute, who's sharing content. All that information is represented live inside here.
Yeah, so I'll just give you an example for this one is the Windows 10 PC. You can see that it's connected through Ethernet instead of Wi-Fi. And it's connected through your media node in San Jose, right? And as I mentioned, for PC, you can actually zoom down into a CPU utilization, whether the CPU at the time is good. The app itself, this is a Webex app, whether the utilization of the CPU of the app actually hogging the CPU. It is not in this case, the memory usage and such. So all this thing will give you more insight, right? Because sometimes when your PC is running a lot of multiple applications at the same time, it actually reduces the capability to run a smooth audio and video conferencing for like Webex, for instance. So you might advise your user to close or reboot or refresh, kind of reboot the PC so that it has a fresh memory and such. Right? Sometimes you just do not know, right? For some reason, it just has a lot of application that is hogging some of the memory and the CPU. That will be part of that issue, right? So let me unshare this. Hold on. So I think that's all from the Control Hub perspective. So I'm just quickly go into the meeting. So let me drag it over. So over there, I have started another meeting on the web itself, right? Basically, I just want to show you some of this new stuff where you can see that there's translation going on. If you can see from the screen, right? Let me. So you can see that I actually do a translation directly to Bahasa Malay, right? Melayu. And you can, of course, change it to anything that you like. If I'm actually a Japanese that's joining a meeting, right? So maybe I just want to hear, I can still hear, but I still want it to be translated into Japanese so that I know what is actually going on. What is, let's say KP is actually talking. So at least I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm talking to you, Nicholas, you'll probably see Japanese, but not that I know what it is there, but it makes sense. A lot of times, as I said, translation itself is a huge cost and can sort of lead to longer meeting times. Your ability to understand what I'm saying. Of course, right now what we're supporting is English being translated to these languages. But there is this was an acquisition that Cisco made some time ago, just to make sure that, we are catering to the ability to not just do English to other language translation, but at some point also do in reverse, right? But this is the first step in that direction. And hopefully our customers enjoy this capability. It really helps you cut down the barriers that exist between cultures and countries.
Just to add on to that, ladies and gentlemen, I think if you want, you can start to unmute yourself, because the translator that Nicholas has turned on is basically universal. It's going to capture whatever we say right now. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions or interact, and you will probably pleasantly find that whatever you say will be automatically translated from English.
Yep, thanks. So basically, just you can do it live in the current. I think it's the current meeting isn't enabled, so you can actually try it out as well. So let me do this. It's my meeting, right? So I just stop my screen share now. If you can see me in a full screen mode, now that you probably see that there's a device in front of me. So I can join my meeting over here. You can see that there's a meeting in progress, the one that I started earlier for the translation. Let me probably zoom in my video a bit. Right. So this is the meeting that I started with the translation. This is the meeting that is ongoing. I can just one click and join, right, and mute it. So from your end, maybe you will notice that this one device has joined, right? And if you put in the focus mode, maybe you can see that this device is actually facing a dual screen that I'm actually presenting now, right? Probably you can see that. Maybe I just mute the other side, right? And make this as an active one, so that you can see that from my screen now, I actually have a dual screen. You can see that the participant on one side is actually 5 by 5. I'm not sharing any content. It will be 5 by 5, and the person that is actually the last speaker over there, it will actually appear as Sean, right? So you can see from that side, and this will be appearing the 5 by 5. It's actually 5 by 5. At the bottom is 4. Of course, if another participant is over the other side, so you can see that from my Dash Pro view, I can also have a 5 by 5 view from this room 70 as well, right? So it's just as simple as that, and you can of course do a lot of other stuff over here. Let me just. So I hope you can see that over there, right? Coming back to here, if you look at this device, this is a 5 by 5 view. It's easier to view everyone, right? Of course, I can change the layout to focus if I just want to focus on somebody is talking, which is myself in this case. Or if I use the other prominent display, right, it's over here that I can see that the speaker is actually bigger and the rest will be just smaller. Or if I want to see everybody, I can do a grid view, right? So that's how good this is for the devices at home, rather than right hunching over the small laptop over here. So that's about the devices itself. Let me end this from here, leave the meeting. So over here, the meeting is still ongoing. Anytime I can still jump in and join back the meeting. But what I want to share more is basically, assuming this is a Webex Board, a bigger device, I have my apps over here. My apps are on the mobile. I can actually open a space to this device, right? Let me pair with the device.
What you're using is the Webex app, Nicholas, which is installed on your mobile phone, right?
Correct. Yeah. So what I'm using is the Webex app installed on my mobile phone. I'm going to open a space, right? Open a space to this board, right? This whiteboard. So when I open a space to this whiteboard, assuming this is a bigger whiteboard, right? You can know that this is changed to a demo space. What I can see here is that I can actually open a file in that space itself. I can open a presentation that actually shared in the conversation on the space. I can present my presentation over here rather than going in to plug in my HDMI. So I don't have any connectivity to here. Basically, it's actually grabbing all the information from the space itself. And the last one is actually the whiteboard, right? The whiteboard over here, if you look at the whiteboard capability, today, the last whiteboard activity is 11.13, right? So what I'm going to do, give me a second, I'm going to share my screen.
Can you also add me to the demo space, Nicholas? I can also whiteboard along with you.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll just do a quick one, right?
All right,
so
go ahead.
If you are looking at this demo space, this is the one that actually opened up the space over here, right? You can see the content which I shared earlier over here, that you can also see it from the whiteboard itself, because I opened the space over here and opened that content itself. So in the content, I can see that this is a content I shared. There's a whiteboard over here as well. This last activity of whiteboard. So quickly, I have another app that is, because we say that we have open API and SDK, right? So I just share my phone screen here. Give me a second. So you can see that this my phone screen. I have 3 apps on here. Let me just minimize this so that it will not actually. So you have this app that you're looking at. So one of employee in our organization, he actually wrote a bot, right, or SDK that interact with the whiteboard. Over here, I have this login with my profile. Now that I have a library here, I actually connected to my demo space here. You can see that the demo space, which there are a lot of spaces. I just choose the demo space and choose one of the whiteboard. What happened is that when I click done, I'm going to here. I just choose a random object, right? And I want to draw this Tesla, right? I just draw it. So when it's done, so means that it's already done, right? So I just end it. And if you look at my screen still, going back to the content whiteboard, right? If I open this, you see that the Tesla has been drawn over here in the whiteboard. And interestingly is that over here, I actually opened the demo space, right? Let me unshare so that you can see a full screen. So over here, I actually opened the demo space, as I mentioned, the whiteboard that's going to be see on my Webex space. Now that if I open the whiteboard over here, the Tesla is still as well, right? So I can still interact with the Tesla over here, and it actually changes, right? So it's like we can actually write a board, right, to simplify how you want to draw something on the whiteboard. This board is actually going to evolve. Like you can actually take a photo of the maybe the chair, right? Over the side, you take a photo of the chair, and then you want to draw it automatically on the whiteboard, right? Rather than you draw it yourself. So this is like seamlessly integration of API, or how open our API and SDK is to interact with our Webex app itself, right? So coming back here, yeah, you saw the Tesla. Let me just reshare the screen again. And this is the same one that I draw something over earlier on my screen, on the whiteboard. You can see that this is still there, right? I can also interact over here as well, right? And if you look at here, it is actually changes live. So that is how you want to collaborate when it comes to home office or work from home or a hybrid workplace kind of scenario, where people are actually in the office attending a meeting, where you have a whiteboard, a big whiteboard, you don't want to brainstorm with your colleague, maybe at home, right? At home that you can't kind of like restricted, you can't do a lot of things, but with devices at home, you can do interaction, or otherwise you could still use your iPad, open up the space, and you can interact as well, right? That's all from my demo today. If you have any questions, just open for the floor.
Any questions from the floor? I know we are 10 minutes past the session already, but feel free. There could be some deep dive questions that we can take live. Or if some of you are feeling a little bit shy, maybe we can type in the questions in the chat box, and then we will try our best to answer them. Okay. If not, then I would like to pass the floor back to Lee Sin from Mitcom to run us through our closing as well as the quiz.
Yep, thank you, Sean. Thank you, every speaker who presented. And we'll try to make this fast, okay? So now is the quiz session, and I've actually pasted a URL in the chat box. So participants do log into the www.kahoot.it using your mobile preferably, because the questions will appear on the Webex meeting screen itself, and the answers will also be in the Webex meeting screen, but your selection of the answers will be via your phone itself. So do get your mobile ready and stuff. And on the screen, there is the game pin code where you have to input it. Do put in your full name instead of your nickname so we can trace you back earlier and easier.
Could you remind everybody on the token of appreciation?
All right. So for the quiz, we will select 10 of the highest score players in total. And these 10 players will win 50 ringgit Grab voucher points. So do your best. And at the end of Kahoot session, right, only 3 of the top winners will be announced. But for the remaining rest, we will personally reach out to you by the end of the day today. Besides then the quiz, while we're still waiting for people to register, we have as well included the Polo T redemption form in the chat box as well. So you can fill it up by the end of today, 6 p.m, as we will close the form by then. All right. For nickname, I am Root. Can I know your real name, please?
That's me. I'm just toying with it. Yeah.
Oh, you're joining?
Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, the organizers are not supposed to win any prizes. None will be given to them, don't worry. We have quite a number of participants actually in the meeting. Maybe we'll just wait for 1 or 2 more minutes for everybody to log on to Kahoot and enter the game pin.
Anyone have difficulties entering the game? There should be around 23 participants in the game. Now it's only 20, 21. Can I know if Grab is one of the speakers as well?
Hi, it's me, Jason.
Okay. I think there are 4 speakers inside.
I have been trying, so I'm testing.
Okay.
Okay, do you have everybody?
It seems to be missing maybe 1. I think we should start already. So we get started. So for your first question, participants, what are the key factors that drive better hybrid meetings? User experience, security, productivity, or all of the above? You don't have much time. All right. So moving on to the next question. Highest scorer is Bartley so far. Second question, which of the Cisco Webex devices that can be added, value added with AppSpace Workspace Experience Platform? Webex Share, Webex Board 55-inch, Webex Room, Kit Plus, or all of the above? The answer is all of the above. So we shall move on. Total, there are 4 questions. So you still have 2 more chances left. Okay. What are the benefits of adopting AppSpace Workspace Experience Platform on Webex devices? A unified platform, workspace reservation, room booking, scheduling, or all of the above? Answer is all of the above once again. And now we are down to the last question, which is a bonus round. So choose your answers wisely. What does WFH mean to you? Work from hotel, work from home, work for housewife, work for Hari Raya. Only, or all right. So now the top 3 winner announcement, please. Khairul in 3rd place, Shami in 2nd, and first we have Tracy. We will contact the remaining winners personally. And then all our speakers are completely not involved in this game, as in like they will never have a chance to win the 50 ringgit vouchers. So with that being said, we thank you all for your participation. We've come to the end of the webinar. And once again, the Polo T redemption can be found in the chat box below. And you can fill it up by the end of today, 6 p.m. And we look forward to seeing you in our future events. And until then, please stay safe. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Muslim friends, selamat berpuasa and selamat berbuka nanti ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.